It's Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. Welcome to your news update on Blip Brief, small but almost everything updated every weekday. Okay, let's jump straight in. Indian markets were pretty lively again.
Definitely lively. A strong day, making it 3 in a row now for games.
And the big headline grabber, that nifty 25,000 mark,
Yeah.
finally breached.
Yes, both the Nifty 50 and the BSE Sensex climbed about 0.7%. But you're right, crossing 25,000. That's more than just a number. It's psychologically quite important.
So unpack that for us. Why does hitting that specific number matter so much?
Well, it really changes perceptions, particularly for, foreign institutional investors, the FIIs, how they see India compared to other emerging markets.
Right.
And historically, these big round numbers, they can trigger algorithmic buying. So you might see a new wave of passive money flowing in. It just signals sustained strength, gets us out of that consolidation rut.
Makes sense. And powering this move, it seems like two main engines were firing. Tech making a comeback and financials holding strong.
Exactly. The IT revival was quite something. The Nifty IT index jumped significantly, up 2.3% in just one session.
Wow, that's a big move for tech recently.
It really is. Felt like a classic oversold bounce. I think investors just looked at the recent weakness, probably driven by those global slowdown worries, and thought, okay, this has gone too far.
But was it, genuine conviction or just traders jumping in for a quick profit?
It looked fairly solid, actually, because the big names led the charge. Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, gained 3.0%.
Okay, that's a leader.
Right. When the heavyweights move like that, it suggests a real rotation back into quality growth, maybe anticipating that the worst of the global IT spending slowdown is behind us.
Interesting take. And meanwhile, financials provided that sort of steady base.
Absolutely. We saw a particular strength in the NBFC space, the non-banking financial companies. Shriram Finance was a standout, jumping 4.0%.
4%, nice.
Yeah, that suggests the market believes lending margins are looking good, especially as maybe traditional banks pull back a bit and these guys step in. And the big banks help too. Axis Bank closed up 2.6%.
But not everyone joined the rally, right? There were some notable laggards.
True. We saw some pullbacks, probably just profit-taking after recent gains, especially in metals and some infrastructure names. Tata Steel was down about 1.8%,
Right.
and Adani Ports also shed around 1.2%. So while the overall mood is positive, investors are still being selective, watching those sectors sensitive to commodity prices.
Right, always selective. Now, beyond the daily market swings, what are the early corporate earnings telling us? Q2 results starting to trickle in.
Yeah, the initial feel is steady, not spectacular, but solid. Modest seems to be the word going around.
Modest, okay.
So you look at Jubilant FoodWorks, their consolidated revenue was up almost 20%, 19.7% quarter on quarter. That's decent. And Trent, the retailer, reported standalone revenue up 17% for the quarter. So respectable numbers. Shows consumers are still spending, but maybe not a roaring economic boom just yet.
Got it. Let's switch gears to IPOs. Always a good pulse check on market appetite. LG Electronics India kicked off today. Lots of buzz there.
Oh, huge buzz. It already locked in significant anchor investment. And the gray market premium, that sort of unofficial demand gauge,
Yeah.
it was reportedly surging by 24% even before the opening bell. That signals really strong demand. Probably reflects investors looking for quality,
Yeah.
A big global brand feels safer.
Safer, right. Which is quite contrast to the WeWork India IPO story where things seem, well, less certain.
Exactly. Total contrast. WeWork India's bidding enters its last day, and you can feel the caution. Sources are saying momentum has stalled, and the GMP actually dropped further.
Ouch.
Yeah. It's classic risk aversion kicking in. Concerns about the whole co-working model, valuations, especially with interest rates where they are. It just feels riskier than a solid consumer name like LG.
Makes sense. Okay, let's zoom out now. Global markets, currencies. Because that AI frenzy seems to be driving everything.
It really is the dominant theme globally right now.
Yeah.
U.S. markets hit record highs again. Driven hard by AI stocks, pulling the NASDAQ up.
And that positivity spread.
Oh, yeah. Stilled right over into Asia. Japan saw a rally at the open, partly because they just elected a new pro-stimulus leader. So hopes are up for more economic support there.
Interesting. But amid all this global rallying, the Indian rupee, it's feeling the pressure. Closed near its all-time low against the dollar. What's going on there?
It's kind of a perfect storm of external pressures hitting the rupee. Three main things, really.
Go ahead.
First, worries about those steep U.S. tariffs and what they mean for Indian exports. Second, Portfolio inflows, money from global funds, have slowed down a bit recently.
Right.
And third, remittances money sent home by Indians abroad seem weaker too. Put it all together against a strong dollar and the rupee struggles.
Okay, so multiple factors. Now, shifting to safe havens. Gold surged 1.5%, hitting a record high. Is this just geopolitics or something else?
It's both working together. Geopolitical uncertainty around the world definitely drives that immediate safe haven buying. People want physical assets.
Sure.
But the bigger underlying support, that's the growing expectation of more interest rate cuts from the U.S. Federal Reserve. Plus, you've got central banks globally still buying gold. They kept adding to reserves in August. That sovereign demand really puts a floor under the price.
Got it. Meanwhile, copper, usually a growth indicator, actually fell back a bit, despite recent gains. Seems odd.
It does seem counterintuitive, but this was less about demand and more about currency moves, actually, triggered by political instability elsewhere.
Ah, okay. How so?
Well, copper's priced in U.S. dollars, right? So when you have political turmoil like we've seen bits of in Japan and France recently, global money tends to rush into the U.S. dollar for safety.
Right, the dollar strengthens.
Exactly. And when the dollar strengthens significantly, suddenly that same ton of copper costs more for someone buying it in yen or euros. So demand effectively dips, pushing the price down. Even if underlying industrial use is okay, it's a dollar correction.
Fascinating how interconnected it all is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring it back home. Indian macroeconomy. The services sector, which has been booming, showing signs of cooling.
Just slightly easing off the accelerator. The services PMI dropped a bit in September. It came down to 60.9 from that 15-year high of 62.9 we saw in August.
Still strong, though.
Oh, absolutely, still robust expansion. But that breakneck pace couldn't last forever. It suggests a slight slowing in new orders, exports, employment growth, which, the Reserve Bank might actually see as a good thing. A healthy moderation, avoiding overheating, a soft landing, perhaps?
Interesting perspective.
I
But
get
hiring, that's a different story. White-collar hiring up 17% year-on-year in September. But the real news is where the hiring is happening.
This is potentially huge. That growth isn't really in the big metros anymore. It's heavily concentrated outside Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, saw a mammoth 21% surge in hiring.
21%? Wow.
Yeah, way faster than the metros. It really suggests this powerful economic decentralization is happening, driven by, lower costs, better digital infrastructure now, companies finding talent beyond the usual hubs. It's really shifting the economic map.
Definitely something to watch. Yeah. Now, trade and policy. India and Qatar looking to fast-track a trade deal?
Yes, an FTA free trade agreement. They're aiming to get it done pretty quickly. Target is mid-2026. It's part of India's bigger strategy, using these targeted deals to lock in growth and, importantly with Qatar, secure energy supplies.
And domestically, hints of more reforms coming.
Seems like it. The Niti Aayog CEO suggested another round of next-gen economic reforms might be announced before Diwali. The buzz is around deeper structural stuff, maybe land, labor, logistics, things to boost long-term competitiveness.
Okay, pre-Diwali fireworks, potentially. And on energy, BP's chief economist made a pretty stark projection about India's future role.
A massive forecast. They project India will account for 12% of global energy demand by 2050. 12%.
That's huge.
It really underscores India's central role, not just as a consumer, but critical for global energy planning, how we use energy, the shift to renewables. If you want to understand global energy's future, you absolutely have to look at India.
No doubt. Lastly, on the regulatory front, a big court date coming up for Vodafone idea.
Yes, a really crucial one. The Supreme Court hears their plea on October 13th. They're asking for a waiver of interest and penalties on those huge AGR dues, adjusted gross revenue.
And this is bigger than just one company.
Oh, definitely. The outcome could impact the whole telecom sector structure, how the government collects these kinds of fees. It affects the viability of a major player and sets a massive legal precedent. So lots riding on that hearing.
Okay, we'll watch for that. Let's wrap up with our tech closer, a huge deal shaking up the AI infrastructure world, AMD and OpenAI.
Yeah, this is a genuine blockbuster. Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, has struck a multi-billion-dollar partnership deal directly with OpenAI, the folks behind ChatGPT.
Okay, so what's the big significance here in terms of the chip wars?
It's a direct shot at NVIDIA. NVIDIA has pretty much owned the market for the high-end chips needed for AI. Now, AMD is positioning its newest chips, the MI300 series, as the hardware for arguably the most important AI company out there.
So it bypasses the usual sales pitch.
Kind of. It embeds AMD right into the development cycle of the next wave of AI. Very strategic.
And the deal itself has an interesting twist. OpenAI gets an option on AMD stock.
Exactly. That's what makes it more than just a supplier deal. OpenAI has the option to buy up to a 10% stake in AMD. It ties their fortunes together.
Ah, okay.
OpenAI gets a stake in the success of the hardware its models run on, and AMD gets this incredibly valuable partner to help optimize chips for what AI actually needs next. It really signals that building future AI requires deep co-development.
So not just buying parts off the shelf anymore. This really sets up a major battle for dominance in AI computing for the next decade.
For sure. The race for AI supremacy just got a lot more interesting and definitely more strategic.
And just before you go, a quick note. This deep dive commentary was put together using advanced AI. We always strive for accuracy, but please do cross-verify any crucial information yourself. Your informed decisions are what matter most.